tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So as we continue with our practice during the Strength Retreat, just yesterday I think, we had some interviews, so there's a few issues that came up, so I thought it's a good time just to kind of just use that at least as a starting point for the talk anyway, and see where it goes. And I think one of the things that came up was discussed with one of the practitioners was this idea of faith. And faith is certainly a very important part of Buddhism, but I think it's also a very important part of all religious path. And sometimes faith has a bad rap in religion, because in certain tradition, it's just blind faith. You believe in what I say, my way is the only way, and there's no way to know, to compare. Either you believe in the afterlife, where everything is beautiful, I come down and save you, or you don't. And who can prove that? You either believe or you don't. So sometimes, a lot of religious, in the spiritual path, we get this idea of any kind of faith is bad, because it just means you're being irrational. It's like believing that the moon is made of blue cheese. Now we have science, we can prove that it isn't. Or, believing that in the middle of the earth is made of, little men or something. But these days, so science has done a good job in many aspects. But it doesn't have to provide the answers for everything. It gives us answer to, what is in outer space. Is that, the gods are flying around, or is it just a bunch of planets spinning around? But science hasn't provided the answer that nourishes our heart. Why are we here, and what is the good life? And sometimes, back to faith. Faith, a certain amount of faith is necessary. Don't have faith in Buddhist teaching, you wouldn't be here. Don't have faith in cause and effect, then you wouldn't start the training at all. So, but in Buddhism, faith is not just about blind belief. And as you pay attention, like when Lumpur says, he gives a talk, he said, offer, a lot of the talks are offer your reflection. You have to believe or disbelieve. Sometimes it's good just to take it in, put into practice, and see whether that works for you or not. And Buddhism, faith is more of an idea of a proposition, something that you start out and then you put into practice, whether it works or not. So it's not about, believe in 100%, but there's a certain amount of trust, a certain amount of giving the teacher the benefit of the doubt first. Otherwise, if you want answers for everything, you would never start on the path. Because sometimes the path, you have to walk the path before things become clear. So there's many aspects of faith as well. But some of you may know that faith is one of the first spiritual qualities. There's faith, there is energy, there is mindfulness, and there is concentration, and there is wisdom. And faith is the beginning. Because without faith, really nothing happens. It was said earlier. You just won't come to the monastery. You won't start the meditation. You won't get your bums on the seat. Because you don't have faith. So what's the point of doing this? I just do whatever what I'm used to. I just go to the shopping malls, go on the holidays. So that initially there is some kind of faith. And sometimes faith is a beautiful thing you see. Yeah. Faith makes things easier. Faith sometimes is similar to inspiration. It's easier to get up, easier to push yourself a bit more. There's more energy that comes up naturally. So some faith is beautiful in that way. But it's also, like I said, there is with any kind of qualities. Nothing is good by itself, and nothing is bad. Like there is a bad kind of faith, like the blind faith. Some people follow the gurus to a dead end because they just have faith in that guru, but they don't investigate, they don't understand, they don't see clearly where the path is leading them. So Buddhism is always, faith is a starting proposition, and then you put that into practice. You see whether it works. You do what the Buddha said, do what the meditation masters asked you, and you can see for yourself. So much, remember there, the chanting the Dhamma is there's something to see for yourself, to investigate. The wise then know for themselves. And that's what the Dhamma is. And same with faith. Faith starts you out to start walking. But also the Pali word for faith is also confidence. And you can only have 100% confidence when you see the truth for yourself. That's where faith becomes unshakable. So until then, there's always a bit of trust, a bit of giving the benefit of the doubt. Until you're a stream enterer, your faith is always, prone to a bit of doubting. But something that you can nourish, something you can encourage, develop, to grow by putting into the practice. But faith has many aspects as well. It's faith, obviously, in the teacher, faith in the Buddha, that he is enlightened, fully enlightened. That also that what he teaches will also give you, if you practice that, to also realize this enlightenment for yourself. So initially you have to have faith, some confidence in the teaching of the Buddha. But also it's hard to generate energy, enthusiasm to practice. That's one. But it's also the other one, the type of people sometimes gloss over. It's also faith in the teaching. They go together. That what the Buddha taught, what the meditation masters taught, is something that you can also practice. That the Buddha wasn't, he is a special being, but it's not so special that it's hard to duplicate or replicate his path of practice. So you have to have faith in the teaching, the Dhamma, that if you follow the instructions laid down by the Buddha or the meditation master, that you too will also arrive at the destination. But sometimes in the modern era, faith is something that is looked down upon. We value more rationality. Sometimes we value cynicism. It's just hard to give ourselves wholeheartedly into the practice or into the training. I think it was one of the meditation masters who was, even back then, we're seeing a lot of students. They come and they go, so he sped up, so he didn't want to teach anymore. He didn't want to take any more students. But then this is a new monk says, I want to be your student. Says, no, these days, these monks are just, walking around, want to hear good stories, and then they stay with you for a few years and then move on, looking for the next teacher to inspire them for a little bit, and they get bored and move on again. So I'm fed up, I'm not taking any more students. He said, no, I have, in these days, people don't have a lot of faith in the teaching, a lot of faith in the teacher. So he said, no, I will have faith. I will do exactly what you say. Just give me instruction, I'll follow it. He says, no, these days, people are very stubborn. They always follow their own. No, yeah, you have good ideas, but no, I know better. People said, so the student assures the teacher that he's going to follow the instructions to the T. And he says, okay, you're going to do exactly what it says. He says, yes, master, I will do exactly what you say. He said, okay, stop walking that way, west. You keep on walking. Don't stop until I tell you to. So, yes, the monk keep on walks. He runs into this bush. He didn't turn left, he didn't turn right, walks right to the bush. He got scratched up, but he didn't mind. He's like, okay, keep on walking. The master was looking at him. He kept walking. Then he walked about a kilometer. The master's walking behind him to see what he was doing. He didn't turn left, didn't turn right, didn't divert. And soon he walked right up to a lake. He was listening to the master. The master just said, no, do not stay to stop. So he kept on walking. Walked in there. His robe wet. And was thinking, for sure, the master must tell me to stop now. My robe's going to be ruined pretty soon. But he didn't. So he kept walking up to his stomach. The water was rising up to his chest, rising further. And he's just waiting, like, okay. And the monks, the teacher would say, oh, surely he must be stopping now. But he didn't. He kept walking all the way up to his nose, and walking past. And luckily, until, I think, all the way to the water, until the water covered him. He kept on walking. And then the master said, okay, you can stop now. Okay, so maybe I can use you after all. I don't know how the student heard him. The master told him to stop. but he did hear, what he did was to receive the instruction to stop. So he said, okay, I can use you now. Yeah. So sometimes in the path of practice, you do really have to have that kind of faith in the practice, in the Buddha, the teaching, and in the teacher, to really give your life to it. There's something that Ajahn Chah said over and over again. He says he gave his life to the practice, literally laid down his life. No matter how much hardship he experienced in terms of getting not enough food, no matter how much fear that came up, meditating in the charnel ground, meditating by himself in the forest, he still didn't give up. He just gave his life. He says, it's just one lifetime I'm going to give to the practice. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to turn back until I see the truth for myself. And sometimes it's that kind of faith that we have to develop to really overcome. And you can see for yourself that faith is it's also a very fragile thing. It needs to be nourished in the beginning. And that way it takes time to come together. Some people are born with it. Sometimes you're born into a Buddhist culture, so a certain amount of faith is also an underground of faith that you can draw on. Other people, they don't have that background, but it's not something that is inherently in your genetics, something that you can develop, because it is a spiritual quality, a spiritual power that does carry you. So it's something you can develop, and you can see that in people. Initially they come, there's a lady who came a few years ago, didn't have much faith. She didn't want to bow to anything. It's like, no, we grew up in Australia, we don't bow to these things like this. More kind of like, more rational, more scientific. And after a while, after meditation, start to come together. She lived it after a few weeks, and then you can see the faith arises. There's a sense of joy and happiness, a sense of awareness, a sense of softness as well. And it's a beautiful thing to see someone growing in faith. But sometimes it takes time, and it comes together slowly. And it comes together at different rates for different people. But with anything, spiritual qualities, it's not something that you cannot develop. Like I said to most people, any spiritual qualities or any qualities, mental or physical, it's like a muscle. You have to develop it gradually. It takes time, it takes patience. But it takes an intention also, a steadiness to cultivate it day in and day out, weeks and months. And a lot of time you develop through your practice or through reading biographies of great monks and nuns, reading the life of the Buddha, reading the suttas. You see, and sometimes it is quite awe-inspiring to read the suttas. You see that what the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago still applied to this day and age. And you see the power of the truth, the power of wisdom. It transcends culture and time. It applies. Human life can be very different than it was back in India. But really, human beings, they haven't changed much. We still want to be happy. We still have attachment. Whether it's to a buffalo or to a new car, it's the same thing. Whether we all still have attachment to our loved ones, our kids, our partners, or whatever. Those things will not change going forward. We still are mired in ignorance. We still make a lot of suffering for ourselves and others. And the path of the Buddha, the laid out, is something that hopefully is different ways to cope with life, different ways to understand our suffering and hopefully to transcend it. So that's the thing that is timeless. That's what the Buddha said, the Dhamma is timeless. Something that transcends culture. But it does take, faith. But faith also is similar. Remember I say last week, I'm going to say, this is the vasa, the concept of love. How do I weave love into this? Faith is a bit like metta also. It's having a bit of, giving the teaching, giving the teacher the benefit of doubt, a sense of appreciation, sense of gratitude. So when you have faith, all these other wholesome qualities start to come up. But sometimes, obviously the mind art, sometimes, it's not always so wholesome. There are sometimes we are plagued by the 5 hindrances. Sometimes we are plagued by irritation. Sometimes we are overcome by greed. Or sometimes, we are full of doubts. Or sometimes we're full of sloth and torpor. Or sometimes we are just full of restlessness from time to time. But that's okay. But with faith and confidence, we face these challenges. We look at, we try to understand it, try to work with it. We see it as a challenge, not as a judgment, a negative judgment on our character. That I'm a bad person because I'm too greedy, or I'm too angry, or I'm too confused. Yeah, there's confusion in the mind. But hopefully we have the faith and confidence in ourselves that we can overcome it. And that's the other thing. It brings me to the other aspect of faith. It's in faith in the teacher, faith in the teaching, but also faith in ourselves, that we have what it takes to overcome these obstacles. Sometimes we grow, sometimes we're conditioned in the modern world. And that, we judge ourselves sometimes quite harshly. Sometimes we're plagued by doubt, self-doubt, and guilt and remorse. That we look around, we say, "Oh, everybody must be missing out. It's just me sitting here with my achy knees and crazy mind. Everybody else must be so missing out. They all look so happy, rocking back and forth, must be full of bliss." But everybody else must be all enlightened already, just me, struggling away for these years and years and hours until nothing happens. Yeah, so we have this, we judge ourselves very harshly. I'm too greedy, I'm too angry, too confused to practice Ajahn. I should just go back home and get my job back. So sometimes it is faith, confidence wrong. And it's not, faith in yourself is not like an egotistical thing. Then you also, like I said, with a sense of kindness to yourself, a sense of trust, that you know that there's a confidence, self-confidence, that you know that you have what it takes to realize the teaching. You have what it takes to realize the Dhamma. It might not happen tonight, it might not happen tomorrow. But you know that if you continue walking the path, you put the teaching into practice, that eventually these things will come together. It is cause and effect. You follow the instructions, the result will happen. It's like growing a tree. You keep watering it, keep the pest away. It will grow, surely, eventually. Maybe not right away, maybe not this tree. Because we're trying to put some wattles around the terracotta. It's a few times already. We've gone through a few cycles and they're still dying. So I'm not sure what's happening there. But eventually, we don't give up, we keep planting new ones. Eventually, something will grow. But it is in reflecting, the practice and reflecting on my own journey. Yeah, sometimes it's things does surprise you. You don't know where it came from. Sometimes it might be full of doubt. You could be full of irritation, wanting to do something else. And then you meet a teacher and then everything comes together. And then a lot of faith comes up and things become easy again. And it's great, it's beautiful. Like, being in heaven. Everything is just right. Good weather, good friendship, good meditation. And then that lasts a while, and then it fades away. And everything's become difficult again. Boring jokes, corny jokes. So bored of food. Food's the same every day. I get this Thai curry. Why don't I get some nice spaghetti? Don't expect me. Or whatever. And then you complain. So the complaining mind comes back. It starts to complain about everything. Oh, it would be nice if I just go off by myself. Oh, by myself somewhere. It's be just right. But you see often, you see in your mind that it's just the complaining mind. But I always tell people that, it's nice when things go right. Nice when the good meditation comes together, things are harmonious, you get along with everybody, and things seem to be going on kind of, the highway to Nibbana. They call them, I'm on the highway, expressway to Nibbana, only one destination. It's beautiful when that happens. It's true. But also, sometimes it's more interesting when it looks like you hit a major roadblock. You're going on that streetway, you're going expressway to Nibbana, and then boom, this huge wall is sitting in front of you all of a sudden. You know, like, and it's like, oh, you can't climb up, you can't go around. And you can't, what did Ajahn Chah say? You can't go forward, also can't go backward. You can't stand still either. And then what? But that's when things get interesting, because it also encourages you to really to look inward, to study what is happening. Because sometimes you will have a bag of tricks. Oh, I'm feeling a bit low. Okay, I'll just go read a biography by Ajahn Chah and feel inspired again. No, that's easy. Not fair, I'm inspired again. It's good. Poof. Or something happens, so you get your little tricks that you do. But once in a while, none of that tricks works. And it's gonna happen from time to time. You listen to these talks, like, oh, I can't take it. Oh, listen to too many talks already, that doesn't do it anymore. Because sometimes you listen to a certain Ajahn talk, like, oh, it's really nice, and you feel happy again. But at other times, you listen to your favorite talk, and it doesn't do anything. And you go for your favorite walk, where the flowers are out, beautiful, and it still doesn't do it. It's like, oh, what? Yeah, so there's the spot. But sometimes even then, you dig deep. There's still a remnant of faith that, you know, I'm having a really bad day. I'm having a bad week, bad month, bad year. But you know what? I still have faith and confidence in this path. But I know it works. I see in other people, I read about it, I see in other, you know, the meditation masters, so much of their lives are similar to ours. They also have greed, hatred, delusion. They also have anger. They also have many issues that we have. And yet they were able to transcend that. Reading the life of Ajahn Chah, Lim, Ajahn Tan, they're all the same thing. When you read the lives of the disciples of Buddha, same thing. Lots of issue, lots of craziness. Even a serial killer can be enlightened. It's like, come on. We surely have what it takes. Crazy lady also became enlightened. Come on. So it gives you faith, and also gives you kind of confidence that yes, maybe not, you know, right away, but things are moving in the right direction. As long as you don't give up, as long as there's something in you that keeps pursuing one step at a time, one moment at a time. And when dies arise, when things come together, you can see and you just feel it in your bones. But this is the best thing that you can do to cultivate wholesome states, to cultivate clarity, to cultivate kindness, to cultivate peace. That is the best thing you can do for yourself, also do for the world around us. So much anxiety and worry, so much confusion at the moment. That little peace we have here, a little spot in the little forest, matters. What we do is important, it matters. Not just ourselves, but others around us. And there is a strong energy of the mind that helps ourselves, helps the community around us, also help the world at large. As long as we continue walking the path, as long as we cultivate and develop this quality of faith and confidence. Faith and confidence in the Buddha, the teacher, faith and confidence in the teaching is something that still applies in this day and age. And also faith and confidence in ourselves, that we have what it takes to realize the end of suffering. So I offer those words to reflect tonight. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.